the 2024 election. New York Congresswoman Elise calling out the FBI's handling of Iran's threats toward President Trump. In a new Wall Street Journal op-ed, Stefanik accuses the FBI of, quote, willfully covering up Iranian influence in the 2024 presidential election. Joining me now is New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, the woman herself. She's the House Republican Conference chairwoman. Great to see you, Congresswoman. Thanks very much for being here. What is the FBI doing now?
The FBI is not providing answers to Congress. So we had our last election interference briefing at the end of September, and I've been at enough hearings. I'm one of the most senior members on the Intelligence Committee, one of the few remaining members that was there during the Russia hoax, the impeachment sham under Adam Schiff. And I know when the FBI clams up that typically they're hiding information from Congress that they're responsible to give to us. I think it's important for the American people to know the answers to very direct questions, and the FBI could reveal this without providing any classified information or revealing sources and methods. And that was this. When did they know about the Iranian hack into the Trump campaign at the highest levels? And when did they inform the Biden campaign versus the Trump campaign? My hunch and my suspicion, since they clammed up in that hearing, is that the Biden campaign was notified prior to the Trump campaign. If that is the case, then this is yet another example of the FBI tipping the scales. They have a record of doing so in 2016 and of 2020. But the fact that they won't answer the questions is so revealing to me. Here you have an adversary like Iran targeting the leading candidate for president of the United States, not only with the hack, but we now know publicly the Department of Justice released information about Iranian assassination attempts against President Trump. When we talk about the rot in our federal agencies and the weaponization of our law enforcement agencies, this is the epitome of it at the FBI.
Yeah, I mean, how did this happen? You know, first the FBI pursues this Russia collusion story to the extent that it goes viral across the world. The FBI had to know better. They knew that it wasn't true. They had all the documents to understand that this was completely made up from one political opponent's campaign trying to take down Trump's campaign. And it went on and on and on. When did the FBI become so politicized?
It became politicized when you had at the highest levels this anti-Trump obsession. And that goes back to Jim Comey and so many of the other disgraced former officials. And you'll remember, Maria, again, I was on the impeachment defense team for President Trump back in 2017 in one of the first hearings. This was before impeachment. I asked Jim Comey, why did you not notify Congress for the opening of the Crossfire Hurricane counterintelligence investigation when that is the protocol and requirement for any counterintelligence investigation for candidates for Congress? He froze up in that committee hearing, and that started the unraveling of the Russia hoax, which is such a black mark on the FBI and was illegal, frankly, from my perspective. So, again, when President Trump talks about draining the swamp, this is it. The swamp needs to be drained. We need to return to the mission, and Congress is going to focus on holding the FBI accountable, which is why it was important, I believed, to make sure the American people know about this, which is why I published the Wall Street Journal editorial today.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I spoke with President Trump about this, even he was shocked that the Biden-Harris administration did nothing to push back on Iran. Okay, so you have a state sponsor of terrorism, Iran, basically threatening a former president of the United States, adamantly saying we want to take him down, we're going to assassinate President Trump, and Joe Biden doesn't do anything until like a week ago, reportedly, he said that that's an act of war. That's what President Trump told me when I spoke with him just last month that Biden should be doing, but they do not hold anyone accountable for anything against the United States. Why not?
They
because
don't.
John Ratcliffe has said that it's because Iran and the Democrats have one thing in common. They want to stop Trump.
And that is something that the Democrats and Kamala Harris have in common with Iran. At every opportunity, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have sought to appease Iran. And this is yet the latest example when nothing gets more serious than an assassination attempt against the president of the United States. Iran's focus on doing that. That has been released by the Department of Justice. And the fact that there is no action taken by the Biden-Kamala Harris administration, it is a disgrace. And the American people, they've woken up to this. They see the politicization and weaponization in these federal agencies, and it needs to stop. They are accountable to Congress. They are accountable to elected officials, not the other way around. So I will continue demanding answers, and the FBI knows that. That's why, I will continue digging on this issue because the American people deserve the truth and nothing but the truth.
I mean, it's also China. I mean, all we keep hearing is Christopher Wray telling us that China is our #1 adversary. This is the most dangerous adversary that the U.S. has faced in a long time. And what are they doing about it?
That's another important question. So the news regarding the China hack, that came out after the briefing at the end of September. So I will, of course, follow up on that issue because they're one in the same in the sense that the FBI is not providing the information to the Intelligence Committee. The FBI needs to ensure that there is no politicization. We know there is. And I want to know when the Biden administration and Kamala Harris administration and the Kamala Harris campaign were made aware of that hack versus the Trump campaign. Again, my hunch is that the FBI, once again, is tipping the scales like they did in 2020, 2016. But we're focused on earning this election so that we can clean out this weaponization across our federal government.
Here's President Trump.
I don't understand why 2 assassination attempts are not talked about every day anymore.
Well, that's because it's because there's, I don't want to say conspiracy theorist and all that, but you could ask that question. I mean, I'll give you an example. They've got one guy with 6 guns or six phones. They haven't broken into those phones.
Why not?
So it's very hard to break into a phone, actually. Apple can do it, but other than Apple, they have a key. It's an amazing thing. It's very hard to do it. And Biden should do something else. He should tell Iran, where I do have an open death threat, if you touch this guy, who's a former president, and now he's the leading candidate to be president, we're going to blow your whole damn country up.
Did he ever do that? Did Biden or Harris ever push back at Iran?
Of course not. They have appeased Iran at every opportunity.
Yeah.
You and I both know that, Maria. It is a disgrace.
Yeah.
This is a weak and feckless Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And there is a reason why Iran wants Kamala Harris to win, and that's because she will be a weak commander-in-chief. She will weaken our national security, and she will turn her back on Israel, as she has done not only this past year, but throughout her time in elected office.
Well, look, the people are figuring this out, right? Former President Trump held that massive rally last night at Madison Square Garden. You were there, right?
Yes.
He was joined by Dr. Phil, Hulk Hogan, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, former First Lady Melania Trump. Tell me about the night. I know that you were joining him for a telephone rally as well to help boost Republicans running for office in the Empire State. Give us your sense of the big rally at MSG last night.
It was amazing, Maria. I've been to so many events over the years. This was iconic. It will be historic. And President Trump is a New Yorker. Yes, he lives in Florida, but he is a born and bred New Yorker. He helped build this city, and it was just a memorable evening and so important for his family. New York has decayed under the weaponization of Alvin Bragg, Tish James, and the horrible leadership of Kathy Hochul. You have the crime crisis, the illegal migrant crisis right here. So it is the epicenter of just the far left radical failed Democrat policies, and President Trump has earned historic support. Do you know, in every single swing congressional district in New York State, Maria, President Trump is winning. These are districts that Joe Biden won by 15 points in some cases in 2020. President Trump is now polling ahead, which is why the telephone rally he did the night before to 1 million voters across key swing congressional districts in New York. He knows that the House majority will run right through New York, but this is a growing Republican Party, a historic Republican Party in support of President Trump. The highest rate of African-American voters supporting President Trump. The most significant Hispanic-American voters supporting President Trump, the highest percentage. Working-class Americans, Jewish voters. I mean, this is a big tent party, and Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton are so desperate that they're calling him fascist and Hitler. It's a disgrace. The American people are smart, but we need to turn out the vote to get this done.
Well, look, I saw a lot of Israeli flags in the crowd last night outside of MSG. You know, I think there are one-issue voters out there over Israel as well. Real quick, we're going to speak with Lee Zeldin in a minute about this, but give us your take on Kamala Harris's treatment of Israel and how that could change should Trump return to the White House.
Oh, look, at every opportunity, Kamala Harris has turned her back on Israel. They have tried to withhold U.S. military aid. She has failed to condemn the anti-Semitism skyrocketing in our college campuses and on our streets in this country. We need moral, strong leadership, and that only comes from President Trump.
Congresswoman, thank you. We'll be watching your work. Elise in New York this morning after the MSG rally last night. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.